Welcome to Story Time, a place where real fear meets the unknown. Here, we dive into true scary stories, chilling suspense, dark mysteries, and haunting horror that will make you question what's real and what's watching. Every story is carefully told to pull you into the shadows because sometimes the most terrifying things actually happened. New stories drop 3 times a week, so if you love suspense, mystery, and horror that keeps you up at night, this channel was made for you. Make sure you subscribe, like, and follow Storytime so you never miss a story. Turn on notifications because the next one might be worse than the last.
I used to love Valentine's Day, not the cheesy kind with balloons and teddy bears, but the kind where you get dressed up, go somewhere nice, and pretend life is simple for one night. That year, I needed it more than ever. I just moved into a small apartment in a quiet area. New city, new job, new routine. I was proud of myself for starting over, and for the first time in a long time, I felt safe. Or at least I thought I did. A week before Valentine's Day, I matched with a man named Evan on a dating app. His profile was normal, clean, nothing flashy. He had a soft smile, a couple photos hiking, one holding a dog, one in a suit. He said he worked in security consulting. He typed in full sentences. No weird flirting, no red flags. The conversation felt easy. And when he asked if I wanted to go out on Valentine's night, I said yes. He suggested a restaurant downtown. A real one, not a last-minute chain spot. He made reservations, even sent a screenshot. I remember thinking, okay, maybe love isn't dead. Valentine's Day arrived and I got ready like it mattered. I wore a black dress, heels I barely knew how to walk in, and a coat that made me feel grown. I curled my hair, sprayed perfume, and stared at myself in the mirror longer than I'd admit. At 7:20 p.m., he texted, "I'm outside." I looked out my apartment window. A dark SUV sat at the curb with the engine running, headlights off. That should have been my first instinct to pause, but it wasn't. I grabbed my purse and walked outside. He stepped out of the SUV and smiled like he already knew me. Tall, confident, nice cologne. He handed me a single rose. "One is more romantic than a whole bouquet," he said. I laughed, and for a moment I believed him. The drive downtown felt normal at first. He asked about my job, my favorite movies, my family. He laughed at the right times. He seemed practiced. But then, about 10 minutes in, he asked something that made my stomach tighten. "So, you live alone?" I answered carefully. "Yeah, just me." He nodded slowly like he was filing it away. "And you don't have a boyfriend, right?" "No." "And your neighbors? You close with them?" I forced a small smile. "Not really, I just moved in." He smiled back. "Good. I like privacy." Something about the way he said it felt wrong. Not flirty, not romantic, just cold. We got to the restaurant and it was packed. Couples everywhere, candlelight, laughter, waiters weaving through tables holding champagne and plates of steak. For the first half of the date, I tried to relax. Evan ordered for both of us, which I normally hate, but he did it smoothly. He was charming, until he wasn't. Halfway through dinner, he leaned in and lowered his voice. "You know," he said, "Valentine's Day is the best night to disappear someone." I blinked. I waited for him to laugh. He didn't. I forced a nervous chuckle. "Okay, that's dark." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "No one notices anything tonight," he continued. "People are distracted. They assume you're with someone. They assume you're safe." My fork paused in midair. I tried to convince myself he was joking. Maybe he watched too much true crime. Maybe he was trying to be edgy. But something about his calmness made my skin crawl. Then he reached into his coat pocket and slid something across the table. A small, heart-shaped box. I stared at it. "Open it," he said. I smiled politely and opened it. Inside wasn't chocolate. It was a key. A plain silver key. I looked up. "What's this?" He watched me. "It's a spare key to my place," he said. For when you start staying over. My throat tightened. We were on our first date. I tried to laugh it off. That's a little fast. He tilted his head. I already know enough about you, he said. I know where you live. I know your routine. I know you walk out to your car every morning at 6:45. My heart stopped. My face went cold. He leaned back like he hadn't just said something terrifying. I swallowed. I looked around the restaurant. Couples, smiling, eating, laughing. No one was paying attention to me. And Evan's eyes were locked on mine. I smiled, not because I wanted to, but because I knew something instinctive. If I showed fear, it would excite him. So I played dumb. Okay, you're creeping me out, I said lightly. Stop. He smirked. I like you, he said. You're calm. I set the key back in the box and closed it slowly. My mind started racing. I needed to leave. But I couldn't just stand up and run. Not with him watching. Not with him possibly following. So I pretended. I said I needed to use the restroom. He nodded. Don't take long. I walked to the bathroom like my legs weren't shaking. The second the door closed behind me, I pulled out my phone. My hands were trembling so hard I almost dropped it. I texted my best friend. Call me now. Emergency. Then I opened the dating app. His profile was gone. Deleted. My stomach dropped. I searched my messages. Gone. Like he never existed. That's when I realized this wasn't a normal guy. This was a hunter. My phone buzzed. My friend called immediately. I answered and whispered, I need you to stay on the phone. I think this man is dangerous. She didn't ask questions. She just said, I'm here. I'm not hanging up. I took a deep breath and walked back to the table. Evan watched me sit down. You look pale, he said. I'm fine, I lied. Just the wine. He leaned in again. Let's skip dessert, he said. Come back to my place. I smiled like I was flattered. Maybe, I said. But can we stop by my apartment first? I left my jacket inside. I'm freezing. His eyes narrowed. He studied me. Then he smiled. Sure, he said. We can go to your place. My blood turned to ice. He wanted to go to my apartment. I nodded slowly, acting casual. Perfect, I said. I'll just grab it. He paid quickly, and as we walked out, I realized something horrifying. He wasn't drunk. He wasn't nervous. He wasn't awkward. He was completely in control. Outside, the cold air hit my face like a slap. I got into his SUV. The doors locked automatically, and I heard the sound clearly. Click. My friend was still on the phone, but I kept the call low and hidden, pretending I was scrolling. Evan drove back toward my apartment, but he didn't take the normal route. He took a side street, then another, and suddenly I realized we weren't going to my apartment. We were going somewhere else. I swallowed. My voice came out calm, but thin. Hey, you missed the turn. He didn't look at me. No, I didn't, he said. My heart slammed. I stared out the window. The streets were quieter now. Less traffic, less light. Then my phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. It was a photo. A photo of my apartment door, taken from close range. My breath caught. Under it, one sentence. I've been inside. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I went numb. Evan glanced at me. You got a message? He asked casually. I swallowed and forced a smile. No, I lied. He nodded like he already knew, and then he reached into the center console, slowly, deliberately, and pulled out a Valentine's gift bag. Pink tissue paper, a red ribbon. He handed it to me. Open it, he said. My fingers shook as I pulled the tissue paper aside. Inside was a small bottle of perfume, the same perfume I had on. My stomach flipped. How did you? He smiled. I told you, he said softly. I already know enough about you. That's when I saw it. A small silver object tucked beside the perfume. A set of keys. Not his, mine. My apartment keys. The ones that were in my purse. I stared at him. My mouth went dry. He kept driving, like it was normal, like this was romantic. I couldn't breathe. My friend's voice whispered through the phone, "Where are you? What's happening?" I couldn't answer without him hearing, but my friend heard my silence, and she did the smartest thing anyone could do. She called 911 and stayed on the line. Within minutes, I saw flashing lights in the distance. Evan saw them too. His jaw tightened. He turned down a street fast, but it was too late. A police car pulled behind us, then another, then another. Evan tried to act calm, but his hands were tight on the wheel. The SUV slowed, then stopped, and for the first time all night, Evan looked nervous. The police approached. Flashlights, commands, doors opening. They pulled me out first, and the second my feet hit the pavement, I collapsed. I was shaking so hard I couldn't stand. The officer wrapped a blanket around me. "Ma'am," he said gently, "do you know this man?" I looked at Evan. He stared at me, and in that stare was something I'll never forget. Not anger, not panic, just disappointment. Like I'd ruined his plans. The police searched his SUV. They found zip ties, a roll of duct tape, a knife, and a folder. Inside that folder were printed pages. My name, my address, my work schedule, photos of me walking into my building, photos of me unlocking my door, photos taken from across the street. My stomach turned. The officer's voice went quiet. "This isn't his first time," he said. And then he said something that made my blood run colder than the night air. "He's wanted in 2 other states." That Valentine's Day, I didn't get a love story. I got a survival story. And when I finally got home at dawn, the police walked through my apartment with me. They found my spare key missing from the drawer. They found my closet door slightly open. And they found a single rose on my bed. Just one, like the one he gave me. But this time, it wasn't romantic. It was a warning. Because the truth is, I didn't meet Evan on Valentine's Day. He met me. And he'd been watching long before I ever said yes.
And that brings us to the end of tonight's story. If this story stayed with you, if it made you pause, think, or sent a chill down your spine, then Storytime did exactly what it was meant to do. Here on Storytime, we uncover real stories, unexplained moments, and true events that remind us. Some things are far stranger than fiction. If you enjoy suspense, mystery, and stories that linger long after the screen goes dark, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new upload. I release new stories 3 times a week, and I'd love to have you back for the next one. Until then, stay safe, stay curious, and remember, every story has a shadow. Good night, and I'll see you next time on Storytime.